Good afternoon. Hi. No. Don't do like that. Change it different. Give you like 10 good seconds. Good afternoon. My name is Catherine, and I'm back with another video. I haven't posted in a while, and part of that has to do with different things going on, um, with life, as you know, is for everybody, and also being troubled over what to talk about. The past few videos I've been talking about my experience with lupus and my flare, which has gotten much better, and how I've healed from there and what I've learned from that. And I've also been talking about mental health and some of the things I've learned about that, dealing with depression and anxiety myself, and then learning about other people and their experiences with those with mental health struggles and just challenges that many people may deal with at different levels, and how people have healed from it, have gotten help, or if they weren't able to access help, were able to figure it out on their own. However painful that may be, because I realized before I even asked for help from mental health struggles, it was not good. And the thing, it wasn't even the worst, because there are people with far worse situations, and so I could only imagine what that's like, and how difficult that must have been, and how strong they would even overcome that. So yeah, but yeah, I've basically been doing much better. And even the last video I did was me just, it was more like a talk session, just about things I've thought about, and it was more like much more personal, I think, than the first two. But I put that one out there too as well. So today I want to come to to make a post again, and to continue from the first two videos I had. Um, as it comes to like lupus and having this autoimmune condition, things are getting much easier, which is good, and I've been able to handle it more. I haven't needed to see the doctors within the past month. After going through that flare, I was seeing them back to back every couple of weeks until maybe before they went on maternity leave, because they were actually expecting babies, but they were able to fit me in right before they were going to leave for maternity leave. So I got very lucky with that. So thank goodness, and they helped me a lot, and I'm thankful for that. They found them. We found them through the WellStar system. That's here in Georgia. So WellStar and Urgent Care actually took me to make a mix of both. So yeah, they were pretty good. And after going through the different doctor's appointments and going on medication and staying out of the sun, because the sun is what we figured out, what is my most dangerous trigger. As like a lot of people with lupus, it can't be the sun, but I knew that. I kind of forgot about it. And then for me, it actually escalated and got so much worse that it's like a no go. Don't touch the sun. Period. So the safest time for me to be out, like when I do DoorDash, is at night. Which means I come home late, which is not good. But I'm like, I know things happen so far, and I've been guys keep me safe. I'm generally in a safe area anyway, so it's pretty good. And I'm doing that while still applying for jobs right now, and doing my own personal projects in the meantime as I'm looking for jobs. So yeah, that's what I've been doing there. As it comes to that condition, there's still more to learn. I've realized, meeting new people through support groups. There's a support group that you can find through the Foundation for Lupus. I can't remember the full name. Lupus Foundation of America. Um, there's also other foundations, but that's the one I found this support group through. Ugh, I'm stuttering. So that was really really helpful, and I was able to meet one of them, and it was pretty nice to get to talk to people who all have dealt with something very similar. Some way older than me. Some, I honestly, I don't even know if any of them are younger, although there are lupus patients who are younger than me. I got my diagnosis at 21. Some people get theirs at 14, which is, I can't even imagine 14, because that this condition is, let's just say it threw me for threw me on a roller coaster. I knew it existed before I had it. I had no idea of the scale of what it actually can do to you until I actually got it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So that was a shock. And then to find out the scale of other diseases, there's over 100 autoimmune conditions. And to see what those conditions can do to you also like blew my mind. I was like, dang, we really have like this a lot of people going through it. But was able to learn from them. And I feel comfort now knowing there's a lot more people who actually do understand or do have an idea. And it's not just like some, even though a lot of conditions not, are missing some research, or should say could use more research. We are in a time where there's more information available and more of the internet. And even if you don't read from a book, I should be reading more. But even if you don't read from a book, you can still get it from the internet. So like, and so I'm thankful for the internet in that case. It's giving us access to that beyond getting it from a medical professional. And well, I should say in tandem. So you of course go to your doctor, definitely go to doctor and nurse for sure, but you could also go on the internet too, just to learn things or like get some tips from people who actually have the condition, and even go back to your doctor and ask them about it. I've been able to ask my doctors questions as well, so that has helped a lot and get a better understanding of how to deal with this condition. And not just that, beyond autoimmune, because although there's a bunch of diseases out there, there's also mental health struggles as well, which has gotten better for me. So that's been great. And also being able to speak to more people who have gone through type of things and be able to go on the internet some more. And also let's talk to a therapist and a psychologist. That has helped a lot too. When it comes to a therapist, I haven't been to a therapist in a while, which is not good. So I've been doing other things in the meantime to help manage depression and stuff like anxiety. And it actually has been okay and pretty good. I've been pretty feeling fine actually. Up until recently. And I'm contemplating go back to the therapist. I know eventually I should go back to the therapist. I actually do want to, but I've been holding back on that. Because I feel like if I were to go back to the therapist, I would bring up a problem I may have already had. Or more like a different version of the problem. Because like I've realized that sometimes some of my issues or my mental strongholds are things I've dealt with in the past over and over again. And I'm like thinking in my head, Catherine, you need to get over this. You need to stop, fix this already. And in some cases I do overcome it, but then it comes back in a different form or like in a different way for a different situation. And so that is really, 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 really annoying. And it can be triggered by similar like thought or idea. Some of like my mental strongholds at this point are not even circumstantial. In the past, they were very much, well, in some ways, they were very much circumstantial. Like my depression and anxiety correlated with what was going on in my life. And even if it didn't happen to me, I was watching it because it was around me, because it was like familial things. It was educational things. That did have to do with me. But even if it hasn't happened to me, I wasn't necessarily the person like directly involved. I was watching it. It was in my face. You couldn't escape it because it was around you. And so, you didn't have a choice. There was some censoring, of course, like from my parents, as it comes when it comes to my parents' relationship with each other, or lack thereof, I should say, and their relationship with us, my siblings and I. And so it's just like, it's kind of weird. So my depression anxiety did correlate with that. It also correlated with the way I changed in high school, middle school and high school. Middle school was actually not bad. It was actually okay. High school came, it actually still wasn't that bad, but I started to become more aware of my thoughts and my feelings in high school and my loneliness. And the funny thing is, I have friends in high school. All through middle school and high school, I had friends. Few friends. I had a small handful of friends, but it was good because I realized I actually tend to do better with a small handful of friends. I always thought, oh, I wanted more friends. I wanted to be more known. I wanted to be more involved because in my mind, I thought the more people like you, then the better you must be, or that's a evidence that you're a better person, something like that. And then I had to learn that's not necessarily always true. In fact, sometimes people who look like they have a bunch of friends, not all those friends they're not really that close. Well, they're not really that close to them, or it's more the friends that you see is also because they have similar interests or similar pastimes. My pastimes are not the most popular. They're good pastimes, but they're not like the most popular. Not every pastime is going to be popular. Um, for me, it was art. I was in art class 3 semesters, so 3 years in a row in high school. The people that I related to the most were in the art class. Even in orchestra, all through the orchestra, 5th grade through ninth grade. I quit orchestra in ninth grade so I can make some space for the art classes. And I realized even in orchestra, even though I stopped it, that was one of the places in which I felt like I related to people in there. So basically, it's the arts. It was the arts for me. The arts were the artistic people, or the people who like the arts, the creatives. I tend to fit in there. Other places, not so much, with the exception of like language arts and let's see, I did graphic design in high school. Typically, that is art. It's just art on a computer. Also related to the people in there too, and some of the people in there, even they were kind of like independent or like introverted. And I realized, oh, this is the people. That's the kind of people that I messed with the most. I still had friends that were pretty extroverted though, and in fact, for the most part, I knew a lot of people, and those people knew me, which in my high school I think we had a very nice mix: introverts, extroverts, artistic, creative people, very academic kids, because this school was also academically like competitive, but also a lot of people in the arts, in terms of like band, orchestra, choir, visual arts, and theater, and then also at the same time sports too. It was like a nice good mix of everything, and they were competitive in different ways. So my niche was the artist space. And even with all of that I just said, which are all very good things, I started to notice that my depression, anxiety was growing in a way. A couple of things happened externally that affected that, and also I would say social media at some point, which is I didn't even get into Instagram or Facebook or anything like that until halfway through high school. So I actually missed a good bit of the social media part because I wasn't even on it, except with the exception of YouTube. And even with YouTube, I wasn't even looking at the comments. It wasn't until the very end of senior year, which is 2020, so that COVID time, in college, that I actually got really deep into social media and I get into the comment sections. That did not help. That was a bad idea. And so I'm learning to pull back on that. And not just that, with social media, things with family. I felt distant because I hadn't seen there's some extra stuff right there. Feel like a separation from my dad. And not that I couldn't talk to him, I could still talk to him on the phone. I wasn't seeing him physically until like a while later. But I still got to speak to him and my stepmom. And one big thing though, on top of all I just said, those things that I knew were problematic, was how far I could get stuck in my brain, in my mind. Um, I was an introvert, or more, I should say more like an ambivert. I could still mesh with people or without people. I tend to be energized when I'm alone and get exhausted after a long bout of social interaction, with the exception of like one-on-one conversations. I really, really like one-on-one conversations or conversations in a small group. For some reason, those conversations are are like some of the most like enjoyable ones. When we're going to deep deep thought about something, or deep conversation about something. And when it comes to like more energetic short term like bursts of fun with large groups, I tend to feel drained. And I wish I didn't, because I actually didn't like that. I wish I actually um was more into the bigger groups, because I feel like I could relate better with more people if I did that. But then I realized that's just was not my personality. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, I just accepted what I did like. I took it a little too far though, pretty too far, much too far. And what I didn't say before was that I started daydreaming, 5th grade. That I can clearly remember becoming a daydreamer, a serious one. But serious, but it wasn't even that. It wasn't really that bad in 5th grade. It was bearable. Middle school, still daydreaming. It started getting more serious. High school, I could tell. Okay, this is you're losing time now. You really look like going for hours. That was not good. I was able to keep my grades up to A's and B's, but I'm thinking I knew that I barely made some B's, and because of how much I was daydreaming, and also on the internet, that was not good. But the daydreaming was a problem. So I had depression, anxiety. I felt depressed and anxious, happy in between that those times, but the daydreaming was a problem. This was before I even knew that the term maladaptive daydreaming existed. I just knew that I daydream and I pace, lots of pacing in my room all the time. I just knew that I did it. I knew that it was a problem, or like I felt like a problem. I know daydreaming in and of itself is fine. It's when you overdo it and you go for hours. And like me, I ruminate over past scenarios that I did not like, or let's say when I made mistakes, especially when I made mistakes or I did something wrong. I would not forget it. I just cannot forget it, because I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you make the mistake? Why did you do that wrong? Why did you commit that wrongdoing? And I also over dramatize those scenarios. Sometimes I would even think that the scenario is worse than it actually was, or like I perceive it to be worse than the other people in the situation thought. And when I go talk to them about it, they're like, it's not a big of a deal. Or they even say, I completely forgot that even happened. And I'm thinking, well, how did you forget that happened? I cannot forget that happened. They forget it. There are people who I may have said something wrong to, who I have wronged. I apologize for it. And weeks later, I'm still thinking about the thing. They have already, and yet they have already moved on. And I'm like, how? How did you, like, they forgot. And I'm just thinking, like, there's no way, because I can't, there's a huge feeling of guilt and shame. I can't get over it. They themselves somehow can. And I'm like, I wish I could do that. Because if you have already moved on from it, but I haven't, something's off. Why can't I think like other people? And I can't, I know it, and the thing is, I felt like it was just me, even though in reality it wasn't just me. There's a lot of people who actually think that way. This is not like some like new thing, but I felt alone and isolated in it, because I felt like my family, it seems like certain members are better at moving on from things or not holding on to it, at least on the surface. I actually don't really know what's going on in their head. So I can't even speak on it, because I'm not them. I don't really know how deep certain things go into the head. But when I talk to them, I find out that they move on from certain things really quickly, which I actually know is actually healthier because not that they don't deal with the situation, they actually do deal with the situation. They deal with it, they talk about it, and then they move on from it. And they just do it pretty well. At least, or they work on themselves. That's what I'm saying. Some better than others, but you could say that like it's like better management. And I want to do that because I know that it's not healthy to be dwelling on problems for such a long time. They are also the ones they also try to help me. My family is trying to help me with that because they know it's a problem and they're like, it's just not good for you. And so that's one thing. I mean, I'm glad I have family members that can help me with that and can tell me those things. The only problem is that I have a hard time applying the advice. In a way, it almost felt good, or I felt like I just not feel good to feel shame. It's not what it's not. It doesn't feel good. Shame feels awful. It's like I felt like I needed to feel it in order to atone for what I did or for what I felt. And it felt like the guilt. If I didn't feel guilty or I didn't feel shame, that means I wasn't repentant of it. I'm also as a Jesus believer, there's that part in there too. I feel like, oh, because you don't feel guilt. Oh, you don't feel a certain way. You don't feel the shame. You don't feel really, really bad. I always felt like guilt. If you have guilt, you must feel really bad, like really, really bad. It's not the case. You can have guilt, not necessarily feel so bad, and truly stop doing what you did and actually feel remorse for what you did, but not go into a full bout of depression for like a week or two, which is what I would do for a whole week or two. Some cases, like a whole month. And I'm just like, feeling bad is not necessary evidence that she changed. Acknowledging what you did wrong, yes. And acknowledging what you did wrong and stopping it, that is the evidence of the change because you actually stopped doing it. But the feeling, the super like depressive moment, like I realized no one asked for that. And no one said you had to feel like that. But I felt like that. And that would bother me. And then on top of that, not only did I have like extreme shame from the things I did wrong or what I did wrong to somebody else, I also felt really depressed about things that other people did in my family and and how that affected other members of the family or how that affected me. There are some things that like they're not it's mind you, they're not even crazy things. This is not like abuse or anything like that or anything like extreme neglect or anything. These are just like regular, you know, not all of them regular, but in human interactions that can go wrong. Some of which, okay, I would say are a little bit abnormal because the family situation is just, it didn't pan out the way we think it would, or we think, oh, a healthy family situation should. So there's that part. Excuse me, I got itchy. And I would internalize a lot of stuff, especially those things that had nothing, that I was not even involved. I was in the middle of it, but because I heard about it and I learned about it and I was told about it, I would internalize it and ruminate on it for hours, for days, and that was just not. It was not healthy, but I was doing it. That's high school. College came. Oh, 2020. After that, it continued. I got my first job at 18. But kind of a bit later to get a first job. There's some reasons about that. There's only like one car in the house. My mom needed that for work, obviously. And I didn't actually buy my own car. My mom actually bought it for me. So that was a great blessing right there. And then after getting that car, I started looking for work because now I got a car to go to work in. The only other way I could have worked beforehand, which I wish I did it, but also I'm like, because I almost felt like Catherine, you should have had a job already. It just didn't pan out that way. Is if I were to walk 30 to 40 minutes to the grocery store that's near our house. it took about 30 to 40 minutes to walk there. It took a while. And so I don't know if how I could have done that. It just didn't happen that way. So, but I ended up getting a job first year of college. Was in a job for 3.5 years. I stopped, quit in 2024, and medical issue reasons have a large part to do with that. And the rumination, maladaptive daydreaming, and internalizing everything around me got worse, like significantly worse. At that point, I was even on YouTube and Instagram. My algorithm at that time was just a lot of it was me. Of course, it was me because I was looking for these things. It was relationship stuff, and I remember like the relationships, the talks during the COVID were nuts, needed, necessary, because obviously exposed a lot of crap that was going on that people didn't want to talk about. But I should not have been delving that deep into it, considering how my mind works. And a large part of it was me looking into things about divorce and marriage because my parents were divorced. And I was like, I got too curious for my own good. And then a lot of this content was depressing because it was exposing the reality of things that have happened in society, especially in the United States. Because I would realize that this country, I love this country. We have a lot of great things, a lot of great innovations, a lot of great like good changes, a lot of things that we're lucky to have. We also have very unique concerns or very unique circumstances that are like very particular to the United States. And even though you can find in other countries, but they're very particular and they're very weird and can be damaging. And one of those things was the divorce and marriage issues in this country. In my case, it was weird. It was very weird. I was trying to understand what the heck was happening with my parents, what broke down, because I knew that that was something I could not understand. Still to this day, I can't fully understand it. I can understand better, I know more, but I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And how that breakdown ended up subsequent divorce ended up affecting us in the long term, at least in those years. I mean, this past years. It was back in 2013, and I'm thinking, I just wanted to understand more. I wanted to see, well, what the heck was going on, because I didn't want to ask questions because I'm like, I really was like that's like adult business. That's like their thing, and I didn't want to like intrude. But I was thinking like, okay, but why? Why did it happen? And they said, oh, we would tell you once you're old enough, or once like at a certain time later in the future. And so I'm like, okay. So, but I've been from that, I actually got interested in trying to understand how other people were talking about it and the type of things and like issues going on with that, and so and how they fix their kids. So I got too deep into that. I internalized a lot. And in a way, I felt like that was a function of us kids, particularly me as the oldest. And that was not good. I shouldn't have internalized it like that. We did end up hearing things and learn about things that we probably should not have heard. Both sides have said the same thing. There are things that you guys heard and probably were not supposed to have heard, or information that should not have been shared with us. Too late. It already happened. And I remember almost all of it. So I internalized those things a whole lot. And that was not healthy. I don't think I was in the media too much. I also internalized the fact that I have not gotten an internship yet. I'm in college for a while. I've had to take a break more than once. One, because I said it before, how I actually lost financial aid before, had to pay out of pocket gained financially back, and then I recently lost it again this year. This year, that also coincided with the massive flare I had, which is part of the reason why my grades were crap. This past semester, that flare took me, and my classes were in person, but I was just that sick. So there was like there was a medical problem behind that one. And then the first time ever was because I was just bombing calculus. I was bombing it. And then also the other classes I was getting like C's and D's. And it wasn't until it like to go from like A's and B's in high school to like failing classes in college is crazy. At least it feels crazy. It's actually not crazy because I realized and I found out actually that's common. Whereas not necessarily that like a lot of people were doing it or like everyone was doing it, but more like that's a thing that can happen. There are people who did well in high school, through middle school, and college was a challenge, and I was one of them. I was a procrastinator. That was not good. I procrastinated through high school, but it worked. It still worked out for me. And then college came, and I'm like, oh, which is part of the reason why I think I bombed calculus so badly. So procrastination was one thing. It was also I had a hard time with algebra in general. I actually like even when we took honors algebra too in high school, I had to do tutoring multiple like consistently. At least a good second half of the semester, I was in it every single week. There was like a tutoring spot you had once a week for a whole hour, I think. No, hour and I think a half, where you could choose whatever class you want to get tutoring on. I exclusively chose that class just to make sure I could get the grade because algebra was a problem for me. Geometry, no. Geometry was an easy A. Algebra, no. That's just no. Pre-calc, also I think almost exclusively went to tutoring just for pre-calc. Made it out in both classes with a B. Barely. Barely did it with a B. I was like, oh my gosh, Captain, you almost made a scene. It would have been those two classes. Also barely making it through AP Physics with a B. Almost got a C on that one. So that was another one too. And this was also the honors algebra was in junior year. Pre-calc was in senior year. And I think, if I remember correctly, pre-calc was the fall semester. I think it was, which is good because had it been the spring semester during COVID, oh my gosh, who knows what would happen there. But yeah, I not only did I internalize the things about family, my parents, I internalized the fact that I was not doing too well in college. I felt like intense shame, super intense shame. So that was awful. And I did go to tutoring. I actually did. I went to like these sessions where you have for tutoring. I didn't go to office hours enough at all. That was on me. But last time I took calculus, which was the very last time, which I actually had to leave because of the medical situation the first time. I was actually on track to make it the grade I was trying to get. It was not that great, but still, it was still better than the first one because I actually passed it already. But I was taking it again anyways, so I could finally make the better grade. That was just, I actually did go to office hours for that one. So I was trying to go, okay, let me go do this. Going on YouTube all the time, trying to get help from there. And the professor was great too. And yeah, I kind of collapsed that year, 2024, which was weird because the collapse was pretty quick. Because beforehand the year, I was actually doing pretty, or I thought I was doing pretty good. I earned back financial aid. So I was like, yes, I finally earned it back. I was in the gym. I had a great time in the gym, actually. It was great. I was able to I became more fit. I actually felt better because I actually had chest problems before going to the gym. Then after going to the gym, the chest problems went away. I actually felt pretty nice. So that whole year, beginning 2024 was actually good. It was pretty good. I had wins in that year, and I was like, this is great. I'm finally back on track to where I need to be. And it was actually a pretty good year for that. And I'm like, it was sad for me when September, October came around. and it just went down the toilet. Lupus diagnosis. I couldn't eat properly. I actually started losing weight and I didn't even realize it because I actually couldn't eat properly. Depression was getting crazy. The anxiety was at its peak. I actually started developing panic attacks, actual panic attacks, and I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And complete like mental spiral. When previously they were well, what I seemed to it seemed like for the past year things were getting better. They were getting good. They were actually I was on track for what I wanted. I was like I was supposed to graduate that year. Wasn't going to graduate. Had to take a I was depressed about that. But I thought, okay, things are getting better. I'm on a way to graduate the way I want to because it truly was on the surface getting better. I didn't realize what was brewing under that. I didn't realize what was coming because there was no way, no one can expect to get a flare. To get my first flare in September, which brought me to the doctors to get the revelation like, oh, you have an autoimmune condition. Yeah, you do. Oh, and it was very physical as we know with all the blisters, and that was like that flare was a baby compared to the flare I had this year. This year was much worse than that other one, but that took me out. This took me out, and so I had to heal from that. So I have internalized a whole bunch of stuff, a whole lot of things that did not go as planned, things that I failed at, things that I wished happened but didn't. I feel behind. And I realized that not that this way of thinking, I've spoken about this very thinking before in the past videos. What I realized in the past, just this year, is that it's how much I internalize stuff, how bad it is, and then not just only that. When I go, let's say on YouTube, I watch other people, or I talk to other people in real life, and I realize that it's that there's a lot of issues with the mind, the human mind, and how yes, we do as humans have complex minds. We absolutely do. Very complex things we can't understand because we still don't fully understand. Even with all the researchers and all the like the brain surgeons, the researchers, the study, and other people who study, as much as they know, they still don't know everything about the brain. I don't even know if that's possible to know everything about the brain, the human brain, or any brain for that matter, because it's just there's certain things that we just don't have currently. We currently don't have the capacity to fully understand because the human body just keeps showing up with new things that current science can't explain yet, and that's just like inevitable. We can't go. There's no way around that yet, which is why they have all these new technologies coming out so we can do that. That's part of the reason why AI is here. Why they want AI really bad, with the hopes that AI can go and make new discoveries and do certain things, do those type of things. Whether it's gonna work or not, don't know. But that's like one of the hopes. And what I've noticed is that not only is our mind complex, but the programming around us, the media, and the current events of the world also shapes what we think and what we believe and what we feel. And there's a whole lot of stuff, and the internet has a whole lot of stuff. So if you're ready, if your mind's already consumed with the things that's already in it, and if those things are troubling, I can only imagine that the more you consume and the more you internalize and feel, the more troublesome it gets. Personally, I don't even need to look at the media to internalize a lot and consume a lot. I take in a lot of what I surround me, what I hear, something I shouldn't be hearing. I used eavesdrop before when I was like younger, especially when it came to my parents. Bad idea. First of all, I shouldn't be eavesdropping in the first place, but bad idea. because in some ways I try to read the room. I almost had this I had this false idea that I could control the feelings of the room, because there's a lot of times in certain a lot of situations in which that were not great, and they were damaging and painful, and I could see the way it affected my siblings or affected people around me, and I'm like, this is not healthy. We knew it wasn't. So my mind was like, what can I do to make things better? What can I do to prevent things from happening? So I eavesdropped to find out more information. Should not have done that, obviously, not just because it's just like wrong, but because, my goodness, there was too much. And then, and then on top of that, even if I didn't, let's say I didn't eavesdrop, the things that I was hearing because the adults were telling us those things, that was bad enough. And they never said. I don't understand why they told us, but I know they also told us too much. They even admitted it, and that was not good. The social media on top of that I was consuming, because I used to read the comment section all the time for the drama, or I like listening to people's thoughts. I like wanting to know what people think. That was too much. And so that's just like that. Basically, what I'm saying with this video is basically that there's a lot of revelations over the past few years. This year, it's just has gotten much easier in the past few months to see what the heck was happening, what was going through my mind, and the stronghold that I have, or strongholds. It's more than one. That being, internalizing things too much, not letting go of things after they have already been dealt with, and daydreaming constantly. So much so that I actually run out of time to do things, and hours go by. In some ways, I actually have gotten better, because I actually do more than I do more in the case. Because when I had my job, I was like working a lot, and I had school. I was full time for part of that. For full, so you basically part time work, full time school, 25 to 30 something hours of work while in school. Sometimes the school was part time, sometimes it was full time. But when it was full time, my goodness, it was a lot. So I didn't really have much time to be daydreaming, except for one of the times where I'd come back from work after a very long day at work, because it would be like, even though I was part time, I was 8 hours for a full day, at least minimum 2 times a week. That's the majority of the time. That was the first year was pretty light. The 2.5 years after that is when it got a bit heavier. Even some people were asking, so like, you're full time? I'm like, no, I'm part time. But sometimes it looked full time because I was almost pushing. I was some weeks I was pushing 35, 30 to 38 hours. Might as well be full time at that point. And the other weeks I was back down to 25, 20 hours. It was kind of, it changed. And then depending on the holidays, some holiday months, I was almost working full time. So yeah. So I had less time to be daydreaming. I had less time to be doing other type of things. The only problem is that when I come back from work, I would want to relax instead of do my homework for college class. So I would daydream and go on my phone and go over my laptop and watch stuff, because I'm like, I'm working. I work all this whole day, and my commute was 40 minutes. Not a good idea, but that's what it was. So not only was I working 8 hours, mind you, it still wasn't fully full time. So imagine if it was full, like actually full time, like the actual 40, like to 40 hours that people work. Mine was just 20 to 35. If it was an actual 40 every single week, and then basically have, what was it? An hour and 20-minute commute with some best per day. That's what was happening. I had to bring my sister to school in the mornings, and that time varied. Then some of those days that I help bring my sisters to her bus stop, somebody to school, I go to work. So, time was different. Time was different depending on the day, and it that factored into it. So yeah, my procrastination was not helpful at all in that case. And I used procrastination. I used the daydreaming as an escape though from everything else. It was unhealthy. Oh, and food. I love food. I instead of making food lunch at home more often, I would eat out while I'm at work. And it's not that I didn't cook. I actually did cook. I actually cooked every week. I would even buy groceries to cook, but I would cook. The food would be for the whole family. So I would eat it at home, but I would still go out and buy food outside. I would only bring lunch if I remembered to. It was not great. But I still felt good about myself because I'm like, I have a job. I can pay for gas. I can help my mom with insurance, which I didn't even make help her with insurance the entire time because I couldn't. Well, not necessarily I couldn't. I did not learn to save properly so I could do it. So there were times where when I lost financially and had to pay out of pocket, the money would go to pay for school out of pocket until I earned it back. I was like, okay, I finally earned it back. But I also spent money on food and groceries. So even if I didn't help pay for insurance, I paid for help with groceries on top of the groceries my mom already had. So in a way, it's like I think she like let it. She never actually got mad at me or anything like that. But I think in the way she like let it go because I was buying groceries and cooking. So she's just like, okay, you do that. So I'm like, okay, at least do something. That was the thing I did, and so cause I wasn't paying rent. I was just so I'm blessed with that. My thing was you make groceries and you cook. You do that. You contribute. You do your chores with your siblings. The same thing. My siblings were younger. They weren't even in. They were still in high school at this time that I was what's my call it? That I was at home for the most part. And I was also buy things for them sometimes. I would do that too. I'm like, let's go. They're my siblings. I'm like, why not? So of all the different things that was happening, a lot of them were good, but then also a good bit of it was bad or stressful. And I knew it was going downhill. I thought I could recover because in a way I did. As I said, the 2024 was getting better, but it collapsed. And things have not been the same since that year. I've learned a lot and I've healed a lot. It is still healing to go, obviously. I wish there was like a way for me to know when I could be fully healed. I know that's not completely possible. Because in a way I feel unworthy of things that are better. I want better for myself. I want to do better, but I feel like I can't until I reach a certain point of healing or until I reach a certain point of bettering myself, which I'm trying to do. But I feel like I'm struggling to do that. And a large part of it has to do with my mind and the kind of thinking I've adopted that I'm trying to work my way out of. And in a way, I've even used the media in terms of I go on YouTube and listen to other people. I use it as an escape, but also as like a way to learn about what other people do and how they have worked through certain things. And what I do know is that as long as I don't give up, though, things can get better. And if I need help, to go ask for help. And that there's resources. I feel in some ways like when it comes to therapy, I stopped doing it. Part of it was because of money. Because the money would be coming out of my mom's pocket, not my pocket. And I feel guilty about that. Because I'm like, I can't keep costing her money. Even though we've talked about it before, and she encourages therapy, and it's like, yeah, but it costs a lot of money. So I actually partially stopped doing it because of that reason. Is there other? And I think what I should have done was just go for. Well, there's a reason why we were with that therapist. There was a reason for that because they're pretty good. My school has therapists, that's counselors, which I have used like years ago. Used them before. Um, I might go back into that instead because I'm still in college. That's the perk. I guess that's a good perk of being in college. You do have some of those resources. If I wasn't in college, that would have been a different story. Um, and I've honestly used YouTube. As weird as that sounds, I've used YouTube. I've listened to therapists on YouTube, and that is actually funny. It has actually helped quite a lot, so that was good too. And so I'm glad that YouTube is there for that, and because the YouTube has a lot of crazy things, a lot of bad, but also a lot of good. And I think that's one of the good things that YouTube has, or the media has, it can connect you to other people that can help, or who purposefully created a space so they can help other people. So I'm thankful for that. And basically, that's what has come to up to this point. Um, I also recognize that a lot of that from what I learned from a lot of people with diseases or with conditions is that their mental health also can correlate with their condition of themselves while dealing with conditions. I felt very lonely when I had the flares. I felt disconnected from people, and the people I felt disconnected from are people who I actually do genuinely like even if I wasn't lonely, I would still want to be around them because I loved hanging out with them. I cared about them. There were people who meant a lot to me, and I actually still, and mind you, they were still there. Actually, they didn't go away. They're actually still there. I could still talk to them over the phone. My best friend in particular would invite me to hang out, and so the people were there. But I also knew that because I was sick, I couldn't be around them like that. At least not during the daylight. Daylight is when most things happen. So, or a lot of things happen. So imagine like you're not being able to go out in daylight without being fully covered. I had to wait to go buy stuff for that. Now I buy things, so now I have protection, so that's good. Um, but yeah, I've realized that being in your mind is, at least constantly, is not good for you, and it feels like crap. And I felt like crap for a while, previously, up until recently, because I was in my mind all the time. And I think that this idea came up to me again because recently, the past week, I went back into my mind again. And when I mean back into my mind, I mean back into thinking and ruminating and spiraling. I even stopped taking my depression medication. I didn't even tell, I shouldn't even say it on YouTube, but I didn't even tell the psychologist yet. I told her I wanted to taper off, and she said we could do that, but she, like, to be able to taper off properly, because you can't just come off of it. I actually did taper off it, but not. I didn't plan it with her. She knew I wanted it, and she was actually working with me to do it. But in a way, I was just like, I kind of did it myself, and I don't. And now I'm realizing that probably was not a good idea. At the same time, I don't want to be on medication all the time. And that this past week has really revealed to me that my mind is like, I get lost in it. and I can very easily get lost in it. And I think thoughts that are not, they're not all good. Some of them are crazy. Some of them are nonsense. And like emotions can lie to you. So my emotions, I even get become shameful because of the emotions I have. I have a shame problem, and a guilt problem, and a regret problem. All those three: shame, guilt, and regret. So I'm just repeating these things in my head all the time, and then I feel shameful for thinking these things and for circling and replaying things all over and over again. So it's just a cycle that just keeps going, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. When I was on medication, that actually got better. So, but I also thought maybe I could get off the medication. Maybe I'm well enough to get off of it after like a year or so. I don't know now. And so I'm still discovering those things. I'm still trying to go through that. And I'm just hoping that maybe, just maybe, with time, things could get better. I believe they would. I just know that I'm anxious because I can't see the end of the tunnel yet. But no one can. All you can do is just keep going. And so all I can do is keep going. That's really it. And so I hope that it gets better soon. Even if it's not soon or it's not super quick, I know that this is not the end of it. And so that's what I have worried about. I thought about recently. And any last thing. On top of spiraling over those thoughts and my emotions, I should say the last thing I would say is how much has revealed to me how much I don't like. I don't like. I feel weird being me and being human. Kind of some of this, I should say, in realizing that a lot of people go through this stuff, it also helped me realize that some of these things are unfortunately a part of the human condition when the human condition is not completely healthy or not completely regulated. Yeah, yeah, right, not completely regulated. I have a disdain for being human, and I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have. I have a disdain for being me because there's a lot of things about my past and like really my past. What is it? What is my past? Depression, anxiety, struggling with school, coming from a family that was broke that became broken. So going to social media too much, being a procrastinator, being too emotional, being too sensitive. Um, I've never been in a romantic relationship ever. I never even dated anybody yet. So I feel like almost in a way feeling like I missed out. And that I couldn't have. I've been asked that a few times before, but I said no because I knew I was a hot mess. And some of them, a couple were like they were too old, but I knew I could not handle it because I could barely handle what was going on already. So to bring a person into that, to bring a whole other person into a relationship with me, for them to go and deal and see what hot mess was going on with me, the embarrassment would exponentially grow because now someone is caught up with my problems. And I'm already ashamed of my problems as is. So that's my past. It wasn't until recently that I felt well enough that if someone were to come and show interest, I would reciprocate. That didn't happen until recently. And not because I'm fully healed. I'm not. I know I'm not. It's because I've gone through the therapy and I've gone through so many different things that now the things that I know I know what my problems are, and I kind of like have like ways to help. I have to come to the solution, and now realizing that, oh, you know what your problems are, you know what they are, and you know the solution. In fact, you're currently working on the solution and you're actually doing the things. It's just that it takes time, a long, long time. I have no idea how long it will take, but I know it takes time. And so I think in a way, it feels like, so I've heard someone say something like this before. How about you can be aware of the problem? The question is how you fixing it or how you going through the solution. And anyways, for me, I'm just going through the solution right now. Revealing other things, but I'm going through it because I'm like, yeah, Kevin, you already know. You know at this point. It's already there. And you also realize that you're not. I thought it was extra unique. It wasn't unique. In fact, it was pretty common. Some of the things I just spoke about are pretty common. I'm like, oh, and so the point is that as long as I'm aware and I work on it actively and get the help, that's the other thing. Get the help for it. Then you should be good going forward. And be good, what I mean is a work in progress. I genuinely believe that would always be a work in progress because you can't be perfect. I just felt too imperfect that I would could that I had too many issues that it would be wrong if I were to be in a relationship or to be with somebody because I felt like the problems are too big and too messy. Now, after been going through this stuff for over a year, and I'm still working in progress. It's not just an end here; it keeps going. I'm like, okay, if someone were to come, or if I would get to know somebody, and they showed interest, or had interest, I wouldn't mind expressing it. Or if they showed interest to me, I wouldn't mind reciprocating. Given that I am completely honest and completely accountable for the things that I'm going through, I wouldn't hide it from them. In fact, if anything, I'll make it a point to show them and to tell them, like, okay, this is my condition right now. Because I think if anything, honesty, accountability, responsibility, and being authentic is probably the most important thing of all, above what I want in my feelings. I know what I would want, but should I go? I know what I would want, right? But it doesn't mean that I'm ready for what I want, or if what I want isn't something I should have yet. Because I know I want things, but it doesn't mean I'm ready. I can handle it. Is what I should say. So that's what I've noticed, and that is what I've realized recently, especially after this week, and watching myself go back into like a spiral. And it wasn't even like a depressive necessarily anxious spiral. I didn't have a panic attack or anything. It was nothing like that. It was more like a great realization, and I did not expect that. And it just was. I didn't realize how deep it would get, but I'm like, wow. It was like another revelation that I've had after getting some other ones, because I actually went and did a fast that revealed some other things too. And so, and the big point of that fast not only was to, as a Christian, to try to deepen my relationship with God, it was also to learn about myself and more like learn about things I did not notice or I was not, and then have not been revealed, so I can better myself. Because right now, the best thing I can do is try to better myself and just deal with any things that I have not dealt with while trying to move forward in general and just, go on with life. Because even if I mentioned relationship, even if I never have a relationship, even if I never do, if I stay single for the rest of my life, I'm not being serious. I'm kind of joking, but I'm being like in a hypothetical sense. Even if you never were to be in romantic or intimate relationship with somebody, you still live in the world, you still live amongst people. So the way how you are as a person still matters, whether or not you're with someone in a close relationship like that, because you're still part of the society and community. And I want to better myself, not only just for me, but also for those around me as well. And that has basically been, it's like a summary, kind of long, but a summary of what I have noticed and realized and am hoping to improve on, and what has been the culmination of the things that I have worked on and I've gone through in the past. I mean, like in the past few years up until now, especially this year. And I hope you guys have a great day. It was nice talking to you. And see you guys next time.